Well, good morning and welcome to the 4321. Today we're going to be looking at Genesis chapter 4. Genesis chapter 4 begins with the really famous story of Cain and Abel. And if you remember back in chapter 3, Adam and Eve sin and God casts them out of the garden. And this is the first story we're told now that they're outside of the garden. It says that they had two children, Cain and Abel. And when Cain and Abel are both adults, they go out and they offer sacrifices to God. And the problem is that God accepts Abel's offering and doesn't accept Cain's offering. And so Cain becomes jealous, he becomes angry, and God comes to him. And he says in verse 6, "Why are you angry, and why is your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it." And of course, Cain doesn't listen to God. He lets his anger and his hate take over, and he kills his brother Abel. And the rest of the chapter deals with the story of Cain and some of his descendants. And then the last two verses flip back over to Adam and Eve. And it says, "And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and called his name Seth, for she said, 'God has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him.' To Seth also a son was born, and he called his name Enosh. At that time, people began to call upon the name of the Lord." What do y'all see here?
Well, I want to take an application really from the text you read in verse 7. After Cain sinned, this is what God said to him. He says, sin is crouching at the door. Sin here is personified as something alive and looking to pounce and looking to conquer you. The response, God says, is you must master over it. You must rule over it. And I just think that's a good warning to us to not take sin lightly. To think it is something that we enter into that on a spur of the moment, without forethought, without a sense of dedication, that sin desires to control us. And the fact is either we're going to master it or it's going to master us. I think about what Paul says in Romans chapter 8, verse 13. He says, "But if by the Spirit you're putting to death the deeds of the body, you will live." I think Cain's warning is to us to be serious about sin in our lives.
Yeah, amen. I think this chapter is so telling of human nature about who we are and how we view ourselves. When you look at Cain, and he killed his brother, and God says, because of this, you're going to be cursed and you're going to be cast out. Cain's response in verse 13 is, "My punishment is greater than I can bear." He killed his brother, and yet he thinks this is too much on me. And then later, when you find one of his descendants by the name of Lamech, Lamech says in verse 23, "I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me." If Cain's revenge is sevenfold, Cain having revenge on his brother Abel, then Lamech's is 77-fold. What he's saying is, someone's wounded me, and I had the right to kill him. It shows the elevated view of humanity. If we've been wronged, we think there's no hold bars. Okay, we can do anything, and we're justified. But if we are punished, we think it's too much for us to bear. I think we need to really check our egos in at the door and understand that when we're punished, especially by God, we are very deserving of what we have brought on ourselves. We don't have the right to offer revenge when someone's wronged us. Vengeance is mine, says God. We need to let God deal with it. So we need to take ourselves out of the equation either way.
Amen.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We hope these lessons give you something to take with you as you continue your walk with God. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow as we get into Genesis chapter 5. Hope you have a great day.
See ya.